Year one was a lot of like, wow, this is new, this is awesome. The earlier honeymoon stage, right? There's this discovery. Treating our music careers and where we're at in the season of life that you're in, Jay, as the spring when you're in winter is what causes the biggest form of discontentment.
Hey everyone, Daniel Grimmett here. You're listening to Producer Management, the podcast that lets you in on real conversations between professional music producers and their teams, the deals, the strategies, and the unfiltered advice. This show is brought to you by my company, Dark Label Music. When producers want clarity, strategy, and growth, they call us. We're not a course or a coach. We're hired as a strategic partner, part management, part creative and business development, designed for the realities of being a music producer right now. So whether you're a small studio or a Grammy-winning veteran, reach out to us at darklabelmusic.com to see if we can help. Okay, so I've got a very special episode for you today, one that dives into territories that we don't often explore. When I'm developing producers, a big part of my process is connecting them with people in my network who offer different angles and experiences. I'll never claim to be the person who knows everything about everything. And I don't recommend that you do either. You as producers can apply the same approach when working with artists that you're developing. Your competitive edge could be having a powerful network that you can tap into to help unlock new levels for the artists that you serve. So about 6 months ago, I connected a small group of my producers with a close friend of mine. He's a Grammy-winning producer who's just been in the business for over 20 years. Has explored most sides of the business, from the industry side to being a YouTuber and everything in between. So his voice may sound familiar to some of you, but very interesting and knowledgeable guy. There's a ton of content online about going full-time as a producer, but there's very little content talking about what happens once you're already there. I've worked with hundreds of producers, and there's a harsh truth that I see over and over again, and I need you to know this. Getting what you want can actually create new problems and sometimes cause an existential crisis. And that's exactly what this conversation explores. I'll be jumping in with some commentary throughout, so stick around. This one's going to change how you think about success in this business. Enjoy the episode.
Hey, man. Appreciate you being here, and the honesty and vulnerability with which you're sharing too is really awesome. I definitely like resonating a lot with a lot of the things you're saying, especially too like about quality of life and family. Not always playing the game, that they tell you have to play. That's something that I've been on a huge journey with myself. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, Jay, thanks for listening, man.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, one of the biggest kind of journeys I've been on recently so I've been full-time with music for about 3 years now, and been doing production and mixing for about 12. And for, 9 of those years, the goal was like, get full-time, right? Get full-time and make money off of this thing. And everything I was doing was in service to that goal, right? Of like, I want to do this as a career. And it's funny because then when I transitioned over to the full-time and, you start doing it and actually making money with it, and the goal gets checked, and it's like, okay, now this is what I'm doing and I'm paying my bills. But then I feel like I had so much more passion and drive to do the music when I was working 3 jobs, and I was working 40 hours a week on music, right, on the side. And,
come on, brother. Come on. Preach it.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting because I feel like, the first year was just kind of keeping my head above water, right? And making sure I was, able to stay there. And then the second year was a little bit more balance and control and quality of life. And this third year has been much more quality of life. But then I feel like it's become, very like I have a lot of rhythm and I have a lot of, okay, I know what I need to do to keep my business moving and all these things. But I'm really looking for ways to kind of reignite that passion for what I do, because I feel like that's, slowly waning. And I found certain things like, still taking time to make music for fun, or, make music with friends or this or that. But I would be curious to hear if you'd be willing to share just kind of if your journey with that. I'm assuming you resonated just by, the reaction, obviously.
Yeah, bro.
But I would love to just hear your journey with that as somebody who's much further along in that, in that scope of how long you've been doing this for, and what that's like, and maybe some strategies or things you found to kind of kindle that passion that got you into it in the first place.
I'm going to pause here. It's funny timing because I'm releasing a video on the Dark Label YouTube channel next week, and one of the lessons in that video is about this. So at the start, you have what I call the fire, and this fire is there to kind of serve as extra adrenaline at the start of your career in order to get you over those, initial hurdles, because the startup phase is probably the hardest phase to get through. Once you get over that first big hurdle as a producer and finally like make it a full-time thing, maybe you're not, rich and famous yet, but you kind of get over that first hurdle and it becomes real. That fire typically starts to fade after that. And it freaks a lot of producers out because they think that they've, just lost their motivation. But anything you accomplish in life, it eventually just becomes normal to you, right? Like what may be your biggest life goal is just someone else's normal day-to-day life. So just wanted to throw that in there. Let's keep going.
What an amazing insight and question. First of all, where'd Jay go? Did you? Oh, there you are. I saw you. I want to say two things. Daniel, is Daniel still here? I think he's up. Well, oh, there he is. Okay, Daniel, you've got a freaking awesome group of people here, bro. These are. I know, man.
I just texted Aaron. I was like, I'm gonna start bringing guests more often. I get to learn what y'all's real problems are.
This is awesome. So thanks for letting me be here, buddy. Okay, now Jay. Do you guys just summarizing Jay's journey? Do you guys understand what he's coming from here? This whole notion of like passionate ambition, drive to finally make a full-time living off music. Got there. I'm on the summit, the top of Himalayas. Then I realized somebody had a flag up here and they wrote their name in the snow in yellow. And I'm like, this kind of stinks, right? So you're on the top of the mountain. You realize where'd that same drive and passion go for music? It almost feels like music became what? A job, right? And then when it becomes a job, the life is gone. So, surprise, this is what happens. It's happened to me, man. It's led to almost borderline depression and almost just like full out, I don't know if I want to do this anymore kind of thing. And by God's grace, I led into Beat Academy, which it stoked another vigor. But even through that, and just like what he meant, creating content, I mean, I got to a point where I was making content. I would look at my Ableton Live because I use Ableton Live, and I would look at my screen. I'm like, I start to gag. I was like, I see this, and I don't see music making. I see freaking editing, content thing. I'm like, I need this needs to stop. I don't know if I have the exact prescription, Jay, for that, right? In the sense that the cure all for all. Because I think what's intertwined with that is so much of where our identity is rooted. Okay. So just as a caveat to everybody here, please don't hear me on this and say this is the silver bullet that's going to kill this giant that you might be facing as well. You really have to tap into a lot of asking why that problem exists, right? So a lot of it was, for me, the identity was in seeking praise. So I was trying to stay. I'm going to make this marriage analogy too, right? If I'm expecting year one of my marriage, I'm 15 years married, right? And if I expect my year 15 to be identical to year one, something's wrong. Because I haven't reached a level of intimacy and depth of relationship that I am in right now in 15 that I've done in year one.
I love this analogy. I think it fits this situation perfectly. Just like with any relationship you have in your life, could be best friend, family member, spouse, children, whatever. These relationships evolve over time and reach a new depth. I would find it super weird if my dad treated me the same way now at 37 years old as he did when I was a little kid. That's two completely different times and phases of our relationship. And that's the same thing you're going to feel with your career. It just evolves. Let's keep going.
Year one was a lot of like, wow, this is new. This is awesome. This is crazy. Or maybe the first week of dating someone, the first week of getting to know something, the first week of the earlier honeymoon stage, right? There's this discovery. Okay, well, you move past discovery and you're moving past, ouch, this person knows me better than anybody else. And what that does is brings up a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So there are the trenches. But then through that comes the depth of that relationship. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So treating our music careers and where we're at in the season of life that you're in, Jay, as the spring when you're in winter is what causes the biggest form of discontentment.
Mm.
So you start on this journey, you've got this ambition, you've got this drive to go full time. Awesome. And by the way, Jay, congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Because you've accomplished something that not a lot of people have been able to do. And we sometimes think everybody's able to do that. No, dude, like that's freaking awesome. So
Thanks, Stan.
yeah, dude. So first off, realize and have a sober assessment. So you might not be where you want to be, but you're definitely not where you used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that form of humility allows you to appreciate, hey, yeah. So that's something I had to discover, like that my year 23 is not year 2 for me.
Mhm.
So my goal was get to the Grammys, get to the Grammys, get to the Grammys. Man, by God's grace, I got to the Grammys, nominated, bam. And this past November, I was on a project that won a Grammy in the Latin Grammys. Okay, tasted that, seen that. And then I get there, I'm like, what's next? And I'm like, and so there's always a what's next, dude. That's the thing. There's always a what's next. Well, what are some other places that really are triggering inspiration for music?
Mm.
And what are the other aspects of it? You're not a freaking robot, Jay. You're not just going to pump out music all the time. Are you married? You have married. You had kids?
Fiance. Yeah.
Okay.
No
Well,
kids.
dude, like, I don't know. Go. Where are you at? Where are you based out of?
It's San Diego currently.
Okay. So I don't know what San Diego. Go on a golf cart or ride on I don't know. Just go see the seals or something. Like go surfing or something. I don't know. Like being a better fiance. Being a better fiance is going to make you a better producer. Let's put it that way.
100%.
This is an important point. I remember when I was a teenager, my dad got me a guitar lesson, just one lesson with a kind of famous blues guitar player that was playing in town. And the entire lesson was about when not to play a note. I thought I was going to learn all this cool stuff. I'm 14 years old. I thought he was going to teach me how to shred. The whole time was talking about when to not play notes and just the importance of space. And later on in life, when I was kind of working myself nonstop into the ground, I had a business mentor that essentially taught me the same lesson. He told me that the space and time away from your work is just as important, if not more important, than the time that you're actually working, because that's where you develop perspective. That's when ideas come up. Ideas usually don't come up when you're, in the grind. It's hard to develop that perspective when you're, just going hard 24/7. Obviously, when you're starting out, you may not have that luxury, but it's just something to consider for the future. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and that's been so much of, I think, what actually threw me for a loop in a way is that when I really needed music, and I was like, and that drive and whatever is, I was in a really not great place in life. And now my quality of life is phenomenal. And I'm, happy relationship, all these things. And I feel like I'm trying to rediscover what music means to me when I don't need it.
This is an interesting point, so I don't want to brush over it. In general, as humans, we tend to be more open and driven to change, to making big changes in our lives when things are not going as well as we would have hoped, right? When you're at the bottom, there's really only one direction to go, and that's up. So making big changes, I think, is actually easier, despite, things not going so well. But when you get to a point where you're finally stable and it feels a bit smoother, then you have to be more intentional about growth, right? Like if you've ever been in a period where things are going pretty good and, maybe it's been stable for a bit, sometimes you start feeling this discomfort and boredom and you feel like I need to change a bunch of stuff or whatever. You kind of go a little crazy. I think that squirrely feeling is probably an indicator that you have some growth to do, but you haven't been motivated to do it because, you haven't really had to. Things have been stable. So I think that's an interesting thing to consider. Let's keep going.
When I needed music to tell me who I was, it was like this everything. And I was, like you said, my whole identity is wrapped up in it. And now I'm like rediscovering, okay, where does music fit? Like exactly what you said, which is like when my identity isn't wrapped up in it, what is music to me as just enjoying it? But then also having the work piece, I feel like is like, it just makes it tricky to figure out like, okay, where's that fit? Because it does come from a similar energy pool a lot of the time,
Yeah, dude, look, strive with excellence in everything you do. So if I got a project, so I still am producing records. I'm not full on YouTube, full on Beat Academy. Yeah. Because I love doing it, but now I can be really choosy about the records I want to work on. And so, but when I have projects from like good, either record label, it's like, hey, Gwen Stefani, we're working on this project again. I was like, okay. I have like, when it comes to the major, when the industry stuff, I'm like, oh, whatever, bro. I'm not putting my chips in that basket. But when there's like a legit, like, hey, this is a TV broadcast network, we want you to do some scoring and some stuff like that. I was like, great. I want to strive with excellence with that, right? So continue with that drive and momentum to deliver with excellence and grow in that and do that. And that's fantastic. But yeah, I'm not the young kid who's making beats just to be able to DJ them out that evening when I'm not there. And I love that season. I'm not knocking that down. That's where it came from. And every now and then I'll pop in a Bad Company, DJ Fabio, and I'll listen to some drum and bass. I'm like, oh, those are good. I want to make some drum and bass today. All right, go do it. Right. So like, yeah, man, like, you're in a whole new place that you're in right now, Jay, and you're going to tap into another place that's going to inspire you to do some incredible music. It's not that you're gone, your muse is left. It's just, it's got a whole new wardrobe. Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
If you go to producermanagement.com, you'll find links to jump on our newsletter, which I highly recommend because it's the perfect companion to the show. And if you enjoy what we're doing here, please leave us a 5-star review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. That's the episode.